Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Okay, so today I'm going to go over some of the traits of a narcissist. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to go over some of the traits and then to see kind of how it relates to Chris, just kind of like compare it to the stuff we know about Chris. So I found a lot of this information I'm going to be talking about is from author Carrie Scott. She has some awesome work on narcissists. Okay, so a person with NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder. So a person with NPD never learned empathy, compassion, or the ability to love. So let's see, Chris, doesn't seem like he has empathy. I mean, it doesn't seem like, think about, I know I talked about this in another one of my videos, the difference between empathy and sympathy. So, which the difference between empathy and sympathy, I guess, isn't a huge deal as far as what I'm trying to say in this, but I know a lot of people would find this kind of interesting, the difference. And like I said, I did talk about it in one of my past videos, but I'll just share it again. So empathy is actually like putting yourself in their shoes, being able to feel what that person feels based on you've experienced a similar situation. Like, let's say, for instance, so let's say a family member dies, right? And, like one of your friends has one of their family members that die. Now, let's say that you have never experienced a death in your family. So you can't actually feel empathy for the person because you can't put yourself in their shoes because you've never experienced that yourself of a death of a family. But you could have sympathy for them, right? So sympathy is like feeling compassion for somebody, feeling sorry for somebody, being able to kind of imagine what they might be going through, and you know that you feel bad for them, and it must feel horrible, and you feel that compassion, but you don't feel that empathy unless if you could put yourself in their shoes and you could actually feel by your own experience, from some shared experience that you had or some experience that you had in your past that's kind of similar to the experience they're going through, and then you could feel empathy, like a death of a family member. And I've experienced that, I know what that feels like, so I could feel empathy for that. So now sympathy is just imagining what they could possibly go through. So for instance, somebody could feel sympathy without empathy, but they can't feel empathy without sympathy, if that makes sense. So another definition of sympathy is showing concern for someone when something bad happens to them. And empathy means, like I said before, putting yourself easily and completely in another person's shoes. So being able to feel what they must be feeling. And sympathy is just, compassion, just showing that you are concerned about somebody and you feel bad, and that you're there for them and you just feel bad for what they're going through. But empathy is like you're feeling that. So with NPD, they don't experience any of that. They don't feel bad, they don't feel empathy, sympathy, they don't have compassion, they don't have the ability to love. So yeah, Chris, definitely, I think that's one of the traits he has. Like, so if they don't feel empathy, they don't feel sympathy, they don't have compassion, they don't have ability to love, then no, they're not going to feel remorse, or they might feel guilt about themselves. Like, so I feel like narcissists, they don't feel guilt, they make other people around them feel guilty, but they're not feeling the guilt, they're making other people feel the guilt, okay? Because they constantly deny that it's their fault. So how would they ever be able to feel guilty if they're in denial that it's their fault? They never would admit that anything's their fault. It's always, someone else's fault. So that's another thing that reminds me of Chris, because he's always making it someone else's fault. Like, he still hasn't even owned up to what he did. He still hasn't even just take ownership on what he did. I feel like, yeah, he said he did it, but then he said it's because of this, and it's because of that, and it's because of that. Like, instead of just, yeah, I did it. He's always like kind of I feel like putting the blame on somebody else for his actions. So it's like never his fault. Oh, Shanann emasculated me. Oh, she treated me so bad. She didn't let me make decisions. She, you know, NK was just, oh, she let me make all the decisions. I was in control. With Shanann, I was not in control. I was afraid of her. I felt nervous. I couldn't be myself. Come on. I know that just, so I think that he falls under this trait. I mean, I think this first part, yeah, I think, you know, and for him to even admit that he felt no remorse after he killed his whole family, like how could he feel no remorse even that morning if he had any empathy or compassion or any love for them? He would have felt so remorseful, the fact that he didn't feel anything. And you could tell days after when he was doing the interview and stuff, he could care less. I still don't think he feels any remorse. I think he's just saying the things that he thinks people want to hear, you know, there's no emotion behind it. I mean, we all heard that second interview. Yeah, he cried, but I think he just knew what he was supposed to cry this time, because I think that, you know, right after the murder, he didn't even realize what the right emotions were supposed to be, because you know how they mimic what they think that they're supposed to act like, you know, in that situation where he didn't even realize that he was supposed to act sad, or maybe he just couldn't even fake it. I don't know, but I think he was just so freaking stupid that he didn't even realize that somebody that's missing their family should act, they could cry. I mean, I don't know, but the fact that he did cry at that second interview, or that, you know, the second confession or whatever. But I almost think that it had to be something about him, because he doesn't care about his family, and I don't really think he does. I really don't. So I don't think he has like I said, I think if he had the choice right now, somebody gave him the choice, okay, you could have your family back, or you could go spend the rest of your life with NK. I think he would pick NK in a heartbeat. I really do. So no, I think the only reason he cried is maybe for himself. Like, he was thinking as he's telling the story, like, man, why'd I do that? I could be free. I could be with NK if I wouldn't have done that. So when he was telling that story of, you know, that part of what happened, I mean, maybe he was crying for himself. I don't know, or maybe it was faking it. I don't know why. He did cry. I wish there would be some video we could watch, which there was. They said a covert video recorder or whatever, but so there's a video out there somewhere, unless if somehow it didn't, you know, something happened, or it didn't work at the, you know, somehow it didn't come through. But they had, if you look, you know, on the transcripts of it, because I got them from CBI, the written like report of the interview, it says they had covert audio recorders and video recorders. So maybe someday that video will come out. I'm not sure, but I would like to see him when he starts crying, and to kind of see how, you know, how much of a connection it is between him crying and the act. Because sometimes it's just hearing it, you know, it's just better. Well, of course, we all know that it's better to be able to see it and hear it, to kind of see, is this real? Like, is this real emotion? Is he really connecting with, you know, what he's saying when he's crying, or is he maybe thinking about something else, as far as maybe thinking about himself? I don't know, but without the video, it's very hard to tell. But no, I don't think he does have compassion. I don't think he does have empathy. I don't think he feels remorse. I think if you gave him a choice to bring his family back or be with NK, he'd pick NK in a second. I don't even think he would have to think about it. I think he would act like he was thinking about it, because that's what people would expect him to do. But I don't think he would ever really be thinking about it. He would pick NK all the way. I really believe that. So, I mean, I think he definitely, yeah, I really don't think he has empathy. I don't think he has compassion. I don't think he has the ability to love. I don't think he ever had that. I think, you know, maybe there is something biologically wrong, that, well, biologically something off, that kind of predisposes him to lack all of this stuff, and then mixed with how he was raised, you know, like it makes him some kind of genetic abnormality that makes him vulnerable to have this, to have the lack of empathy and lack of compassion, and never learn the ability to love, or not being able to just not having the ability to love. And I think it made him more vulnerable. And then you have his mom, or and his dad probably played some part in it, the way they raised him, you know, the mixture of nature versus nurture, the mixture of his biology mixed with the way he was raised, you know. And then he talks about his grandmother that spent a lot of time with him. She played a part in his environment, his nurture part of growing up. And I think just all of it, all the factors together just made him, you know, with not a narcissist. It made him have this disorder, you know. Next one is they are filled with the deep emptiness and self-loathing that never goes away. I think he definitely had some deep emptiness. I mean, I feel like you could even just see it in his eyes, like in pictures, even from when he was younger, and then like a teenager, and then 20s, just all through it. Like you look in his eyes and there's that emptiness. And then let's not even talk about those pictures. I'll have to put up some screenshots of these pictures where his eyes just look empty, like they look evil. It looks like, you know, when somebody's pupils are so dilated so your eyes look black. They just look freaky. So I don't know. Yeah, I think he definitely had a deep emptiness. And self-loathing, yes, I do. And I think it really showed in his interviews after his family went missing, with him the whole duper's delight and doing a little smile and smirk and just and then when he made that in that book, when he made that comment about how when they got in an argument, you know, he would just smile to himself because he knew how he was really feeling. I just think that was just so just so evil. So not only filled with a deep emptiness, which I think, I don't know, I just feel like, you know, even in those videos that you could just, you know, with Shenan's videos, Facebook videos, I feel like, you know, there's just something empty, just something off with him. Now, and this says it never goes away, and then self-loathing that never goes away. And if you look up, you know, of course there's many definitions of self-loathing. It's just, it all means the same things. But so I'm going to read you one of the definitions of self-loathing, okay? It is a dislike or hatred of oneself, or being angry at or even prejudiced against oneself. So, you know, psychologists and psychiatrists would usually describe people who hate themselves as people with low self-esteem. So yeah. So narcissists, that's what they say narcissists actually really do have low self-esteem, okay? So So it says that NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is one of the most destructive and difficult to treat conditions in the lexicon of mental illnesses. So, wow. I mean, and they seem overly confident, but really they aren't. They lack that. They lack self-esteem. Like, self-loathing is this deep self-hatred, okay? It says roughly 1 million Americans with this personality disorder act not from self-love, but from a kind of self-loathing, a dread of failure, and an inability to endure its emotional fallout, shame. So we know how narcissists feel about shame. That's like the worst thing you could do to a narcissist, shame them. Whoa, whoa, like, wow, they do not like that. So that's number 2. They're filled with a deep emptiness and self-loathing that never goes away. So it never goes away. Okay, so the next one is infatuation in the love bombing stage is the closest to love a narcissist will feel. NK, right there. I mean, he was infatuated with her. He was infatuated, and that would be considered the love bombing stage. Like, that's the closest thing they're saying that to love that a narcissist will ever feel. And I want to go back to real quick before I meant to mention on the first one where it says they lack the ability to love. And remember when Chris said, or when Chris had to look up, how does it feel when someone says they love you? And then how does it feel? What was the other one? Oh, shoot. Oh, that was at the beginning of my research when I was going over that part where he looked up, how does it feel when somebody says they love you? I forget the exact words, but it's basically he didn't know how it would feel to love. Like, it was like whatever the exact words that he looked up.
Chris Googled on July 25th, when to say I love you for the first time in a new relationship. What do you feel when someone tells you they love you? How does it feel when someone says I love you?
It was basically he didn't know. He was trying to figure out how does it feel when somebody tells you they love you. So it was like he didn't know. He was trying to figure out how he should feel when NK told him maybe she loved him. I don't know. I mean, but it goes along with this inability to love, and doesn't even know how to love, doesn't even know what it feels like. So for him to look up online, how does it feel when somebody tells you they love you, or how does it feel to tell somebody you love them, then it's almost like he was trying to search, he was trying to figure out how is it supposed to feel, because he doesn't know. So now back to this infatuation in the love bombing stage. So I think, yes, this is what was going on with him and NK. He was infatuated. They say that is the closest that a narcissist will ever feel to love.
Love bombing is the practice of showering a person with excessive affection and attention in order to gain control or significantly influence their behavior. The love bomber's attention might feel good, but the motive is all about manipulation. Love bombing is largely an unconscious behavior. What constitutes love bombing? Love bombs are actions to gain your love and trust. It could be flattery, compliments, romance, or promises of the future. Once they have your trust, they're in control. A narcissist will manipulate you to get what they want. The thing about love bombing is that it doesn't last forever. Once the toxic person has taken what they need from you, they'll pull the rug out from under you. This grandiose show of love, attention, and affection will not last and usually ends when they feel they have you in their clutches. They make surprise appearances designed to manipulate you into spending more time with them, and not coincidentally, less time with others or on your own. Think about how Chris did this with NK. Remember, he would send her those love letters and cards professing his love, telling her how he was addicted to her. He was already shopping for jewelry for her, and who knows what else. But make no mistake, he would have done the same thing with her. Once he found something better and bigger, he would have discarded her and moved on. And as far as the love bombing stage, once he, got her to fall in love with him, then he could ease up on that. And then he could, start, he wouldn't have to love bomb her, like they say, and like as far as showering her with gifts and showering her with affection and just, trying to win her over. He wouldn't have to do that anymore once he knew he had her in his clutches, like they say. But I guess the one thing that was different with NK is I feel like she was manipulating him too. So whether she's a narcissist too, or she's suffering from some kind of mental, I'd say personality disorder. So I do strongly believe that she was manipulating him too. So I don't know what the outcome would have been. That would have been very interesting. Okay, back to my discussion.
And that's the closest they'll ever feel to love. The next one is they only see people as all good or all bad. They can't simultaneously love someone and be angry at them. So, for instance, he was so angry at Shanann. At least he said that a few times. I mean, he's very confusing on why he did it. Because, there would be times where he said he just wanted to be with NK. And he knew he had, that's what he had to do to be with her. There's times he says, that he was so angry with her. And then he was so angry, she said that, you would never see the kids again. And then she was so angry, or he was so angry that when because she kept him from his family, and just different reasons. But he did throw out a couple times of him being so angry with her. So that's my point I'm trying to make here. So this could make kind of sense for this situation where he can't simultaneously love her and be angry with her at the same time. So he was so angry with her, which means, he can't love her still, which kind of confuses me because they say they don't have the ability to love anyway. So I don't know about that one, but let's say maybe not love like how we feel love, because they don't feel love like we feel love. But whatever, any good feelings, I guess you would say that they feel about that person, if they're angry at him, they cannot feel that. Like, it's either they hate him or they don't. It's like, I don't want to say love them because they don't love like we love, but let's say their definition of how they love, which is not how we love. It's a selfish way of loving. But let's just say, I will just use the term love, I guess, just so it makes more sense as I'm talking about it. But they can't simultaneously, like, you get in a fight with somebody, you can be so angry at them, but you still love them. We know you can be angry at somebody and still love them, but they don't understand that. They can't like somebody and be angry at them. It's like it's all good or all bad. If they're angry at them, then they hate him, like, is kind of what it's like. They just can't stand him, so they're angry at him. So he's angry at Shanann, so he can't, like, any good feelings he's ever had towards her are gone, because at that moment when he did this, he was so angry at her, so she was all bad to him, and I don't know. But now he's saying, that whole demon, and he was possessed. So who freaking knows, but that's that one. Okay. Another one is they hold massive grudges. If you wrong them, they will make you pay. There you go. If you think about it, maybe he was mad at Shanann because, number one, she kept him from his, he says she kept him from his parents. They got in that fight, and she was like, you're not bringing the kids over. And so, maybe he kind of, and then he brought up, like, back in the past where, even in the book, he brings it up how she kept him from his family for long periods of time. So he's held that grudge for years. This was like years ago when it started, and some of the times he was talking about were from years ago, and it was like he was holding these grudges against her, if you think about it, because I don't even know, did he bring up something about even in the wedding and how, just different things that you read in the book, which I don't know if you guys have all read it, but I think he even says something even about the wedding, holding a grudge about, his parents not going to the wedding, and then about, her, basically, making him go months without talking to his parents. And I don't know, just different things that, you know, if it bothered him so much, why not take care of it at the time? But instead it's like he held his grudge, and it all just built up until years later. So, and wow, did he make her pay. He thought she wronged him, you know, by, you know, all the reasons he lists in the book. It's so ridiculous, and that he's said, you know, in different interviews and stuff. But yeah, he definitely made her pay. So the next one is, you are nothing more than an object to them. You're like a refrigerator or a toaster or a car. When you lose your usefulness, you will be discarded. Exactly what he did. They weren't useful to him anymore, so he discarded them. Because they didn't bring him, you know, his pleasure that he wanted. You know? And he knew he had to get rid of Shanann to be with NK, at least he thought that. So what good would his kids have been to be alive? I'm saying in his mind, like, well, if I have to get rid of Shanann because he thought for some reason in his head that he had to get rid of her to be able to be with NK, then what use would his kids be to him? They'd be not useful at all, so he needs to get rid of them too. So, you know, and Shanann wasn't anything useful to him, you know. He had NK for the sex and admiration, I guess you could call it, and love, but not love. Talking about for his attention and his supply. He didn't need Shanann anymore, so he discarded them. Okay, and the next one is, they project all their self-loathing and contempt onto you. This allows them to hate you instead of themselves. So remember how I was talking about the self-loathing that they have for themselves? Well, they project that all onto the other person. Whoever is their object of affection, I shouldn't say affection, of, what's a better word, object of destruction, of, I mean, whoever, I should say, whoever they pick as their victim, because they pick these people out on purpose, you know, the ones that are very empathetic and very, just very compassionate, the one that will do anything to please people. The one they just know the right types of people to pick, okay, for their victims. But so they project all of their self-loathing onto you, onto that victim that they pick. This allows them to hate you. So instead of hating themselves, because they really hate themselves, they do. But they project it onto the other person. So it allows them to hate that person so much instead of hating themselves. They're hating that person because they project all that inward self-loathing and self-hate, and they project it out to that victim and just hate them, and oh, they're just horrible to them, okay? So the next one is, they manipulate your emotions with ease. Yes. They spent decades perfecting this art and yield it with stunning results. They are masters at their art. Like, they know exactly how to manipulate your emotions. Okay, that's why they study the right type of person, right? They know what type of person they can manipulate. And they pick that person, and then they manipulate all your emotions. They know how to get to you. Every little thing that they know how to, they know how to make you feel bad. They know how to make you do what they want and stick around and put up with abuse and make you feel like you're doing something wrong and blaming yourself, and then you end up hating yourself because they're projecting all this hate onto you, acting like you're the person with all these bad traits, and you're starting to believe it. Because they're manipulating you to believe you're this horrible person and that you don't deserve any better. I mean, they are good. Like they said, they perfect this art. They are so good at what they do. It's scary. It's so scary. So cognitively, narcissists know right from wrong. So they know what they're doing is wrong. Like Chris knew what he was doing was wrong. When he had Shanann, like, just going nuts, racking her brain, like, what, thinking, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? what did I do? Why won't he talk to me? Why does he want to leave me? And she's going nuts, and he's just sitting there like, well, this goes into the manipulating your emotions, okay? So this goes into that too. So what I'm saying is he manipulated her to think, oh my God, it's me, me, me. Remember how she was thinking like, oh my God, it's me. I could be so controlling. I don't make time for my family. I'm going to start making time. I'm going to start doing this. And she was trying to going through her mind, trying to think of every negative trait that she has that could be upsetting Chris, and trying to fix it and trying to change it and trying to address it. So he was manipulating her emotions, and he's sitting there watching that, loving that. That's his supply right there, okay? And he knows right from wrong. So he knows what that he's doing something wrong, and he knows the pain that he's causing. But he chooses to inflict the pain anyway. So he keeps doing it. He doesn't care. He was freaking drugging her, for crying out loud. And he didn't care. Like he said, even in times, that happened more than once, when he said in the book how he would just laugh to himself, or he smiled to himself, knowing how he really felt. Do you know how much that he probably did that in that month or those couple weeks when she was just like going crazy, asking him, what is it? What am I doing wrong? He was probably smiling to himself, just like, ha ha ha, like, oh, just so evil, and probably so happy that he was making her miserable and hurting her so bad. And he got supply from that. So he got pleasure out of seeing her in pain. So he got his supply. They call it supply, I know you guys all know. You guys are like geniuses, or not geniuses. You guys are experts on narcissists, I feel like now. So, but, the pleasure, the supply that they need. So he got that. He was getting that from her, from her pain, which is just so sickening. But that's how narcissists operate. So narcissists are driven by a deep-seated, all-encompassing need to avoid their true self. They long ago deemed inferior, defective, and unlovable. Okay, so, as a kid, growing up, it's something that it's like a lifetime thing that they have. It's not something that goes away. If you're a narcissist, you're a narcissist. There's no cure for it. There's probably something you could do to maybe, I don't know, be aware of it and work on it. But that's why when I read that, that's why it says, it's one of the hardest mental disorders to treat, because there's really no treatment for it. How do you treat NPD? How do you treat a narcissist? Because if they don't have an ability to empathize and to love and have any compassion, then how do you treat somebody like that? You can't make them feel something that they don't feel. I'm getting probably the only possible, the only treatment that could possibly help a little bit, there's no cure, is like cognitive therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy maybe. They say there's no specific medicine to treat NPD. So it says, however, people with NPD sometimes develop depression or anxiety, so an antidepressant can help, but it's only treating another symptom that develops because of NPD. You could treat with antidepressants, but you're still not treating the NPD, okay? So there's no treatment. There's no medicine for it. There's some treatments that you could do psychodynamic therapy, which is long-term individual therapy that helps a person understand their behaviors, moods, and disruptive thoughts. These insights can help them find better ways to relate to others. So, it's just being aware and trying to help yourself, which, but if you think about it, if you are a narcissist and you could care less, I don't know how long you would stay interested in trying to do this and actually caring, but so there's probably not huge success rates in any narcissist or any NPD therapies. So, like I said, there's cognitive behavior therapy, which helps people identify negative, unhelpful behavior patterns and replace them with more productive and positive ones. And then there's family or marital therapy. So, because, NPD can affect families. So, that would have been what they should have went to, you know. So coming together for a session can help people when dealing with relationships, with problem solving solutions and positive communication. But I don't know. It's a hard thing to treat because there is no cure. There's no really treatment. You could try things that could help maybe a little bit. I just don't see somebody that actually has NPD staying in these treatments very long. I feel like I could see like these treatments being like a mandatory, like maybe they get in some kind of trouble, like legal trouble, so they're sent to, they have to do these therapies because it's a part of their, you know, their sentence or, you know, their punishment or whatever when they get in trouble. But for somebody, if you think about it, for somebody with NPD to voluntarily do these therapies, it's probably not very likely that somebody with NPD will do these therapies, stay in the therapies for very long. If they're not a mandatory thing and then get in some kind of trouble that they have to do it, I don't see somebody voluntarily doing it. And if they do, I just don't see somebody that has this disorder wanting to be in therapy to fix themselves, because remember, it's always someone else's fault. It's not their fault. So for them to think it's their fault and get help is very slim. Like it's just not. And if for some reason, you know, they do because somehow they see the light and you know, they realize, okay, maybe it is my fault. Do you really think they're going to stay in it very long? I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's something that would be a long-term treatment that they would go to if they actually have NPD. So I think, you know, the people that are walking around with it is most likely is just they're going to have it their whole life and hopefully don't hurt too many people, because it's scary because there's so many more people we're coming to find out that have this that, you know, nobody realized how prevalent I feel like it is until something like this that's affected so many people, that so many people, it's just sparked like an interest in mental health, this case. So, you know, people are looking into it and they're learning about it, and then maybe people that have it are recognizing, well, I have that. But I feel like it's less likely somebody that has it would even recognize that they have it, because remember, they're always blaming someone else, like it's somebody else's problem. It's not their fault, so they wouldn't think that they're doing anything wrong, that that's them, because they would project that onto somebody else. Now, I'm not saying everyone. I'm sure there are people that realize they have it. And those people, I feel like if they do have it and they do realize they have it, do they care? I mean, if they have all these traits, they probably wouldn't even care that they, you know, that they were acting like this. That's just my opinion. But, okay, so let me finish this here. So, like I was saying, they're driven by a deep-seated, all-encompassing need to avoid their true self. So they avoid it, and they, like, right from the beginning, they deem themselves inferior, defective, unlovable. But remember, they project that onto whoever their victim is. So narcissists live in a constant terror of their inner reality and will go to extreme lengths to avoid facing their demons. So, you know, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, it's that statement's more like saying that they're in constant fear of like their true self, to even like face their true self. So it's like maybe they just repress it and then they project it onto other people, and they will go to great lengths to avoid that. So not only to avoid somebody else seeing their true selves, but for them to even see their true selves. Like they hate themselves so much that they avoid it, and they go to great lengths to not even think about it, or not even try to even be aware of who they really are. Like they hate themselves. They hate who they really are. So they just, is that a lot of them will project that onto somebody else. So then that makes them hate that person instead of themselves. I mean, they will just go to, it says, extreme lengths to avoid that. So if they're projecting it to someone else and then hating them, they're avoiding their demons because they're acting like it's somebody else's demons. So they're master manipulators, skilled liars, chameleons, able to morph into different personas at will. So we know Chris was a liar. Well, we know he is a liar. back, they didn't realize he was a liar back before all this. His family, I don't think, realized he was a liar. Shania didn't realize he was a liar. But everybody's coming to find out he is a liar, and it looks like he's been a liar his whole life. Look, remember his story he told when he was younger about tricking his teacher, about lying about she believed him that he went to China. He had a vacation in China, and he was so proud of that. Of course, he's been lying his whole life. He just never got caught because they are master manipulators. They're good at what they do. They are skilled liars, okay? Master manipulators. So they manipulated their Ruseks, Shania, his friends. He manipulated them. He was so good at manipulating them that they had no idea who he really was. So when they found out what he did, everybody's like, no way Chris did this. What? His co-workers, Mark, his friend that's known him his whole life, because he's a master manipulator. He manipulated them. He lied to them his whole life. He was able to make people think that he was this good guy, and he would never do anything like that. And a chameleon. He knows how to just blend in with any situation. Like, he could change one's opinions, his behavior, his appearance even, according to the situation. So he could pretend he is anybody. He could pretend, oh, okay, I'm a good father and a husband, and he, blends in that way. Oh, okay, I'm, as a co-worker. I don't know. He could blend in and pretend, basically put on that mask and blend in with any situation, pretend he's somebody he's not, and they're good at that. So, yeah, I'm able to morph into different personas at will. Like, yes, he did all of that. That's why nobody's seen this coming. Everybody was so surprised, because he was so skilled and such a good manipulator that it was just like, what, Chris? No, he wouldn't do that. What? Are you serious? Because he had everybody fooled for his whole life. The narcissist, through trial and error, has honed these skills since childhood. They are masters at their craft. So they've been practicing these skills since childhood. So by the time Chris is an adult, he's a master. He's got it down. He is so good at what he does because he's been doing it his whole life. He's been mastering these skills his whole life. Okay, so he's good. He's good. I mean, narcissists are. They're masters of their craft, and their craft is fooling people, manipulating people, lying, blending in with people, changing their personas, acting like you're, acting like you have you're somebody you're not. Like, oh, you act like you're this type of personality. Oh, I'm this. Just pretending to be something that you're not. Okay, so I mean, he was good. He shocked everybody when this happened. A narcissist is terrified to face the true self, a self that's buried under all their lies, manipulations, and mind games. Definitely, he was so afraid. Are you kidding me? Like, he's still afraid. He's still afraid. He's hiding behind the Bible now, and I'm not saying that because I don't believe in the Bible. Because, like I said, I'm trying to learn the Bible. I'm saying I don't believe that he is really connected to the Bible. I believe he's hiding behind it, pretending now that he's this. This is his new persona. It's just their fear of their true self is the reason for everything they do. So because they know how evil they are, and their fear of that coming out, and even have to face it themselves, and just they hate themselves so bad. So it is the reason that for everything they do, for manipulating, for lying, for projecting this onto their victims, just for everything that they do, pretending to be this person they're not. It's the reason, just to protect themselves, to protect who they really are. It's just so evil. They know, and they're protecting that. They can't even face it themselves because it's so bad. That should tell you something. Every day of his life is a struggle for survival. They will suffer catastrophic mental breakdown if forced to acknowledge the true inner child, who due to severe trauma was deemed unlovable and defective. So I don't know if I don't necessarily think that all narcissists, all people with NPD experience severe trauma. I think some people are just born that way, and then maybe a little bit of, you know, the nurture, the environment, maybe how they were brought up. But I don't know if it necessarily has to be like severe trauma, because I don't know. I don't think that Chris experienced severe trauma. I think it was genetically, and I think it was inherited, you know, genetically, and also, you know, how his mom raised him, and the lack of what she taught him. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he did experience severe trauma, but I don't believe everybody with NPD had to experience severe trauma. But I do believe that they are trying to hide their true self, and they would have a breakdown if they had to acknowledge it, you know, because they just think, you know, they have such self-loathing that they can't face their true selves. So a lot of them probably do experience severe trauma. Yeah, I mean, that'll increase your chances of probably developing it, and to what degree. But as far as that you have to have experienced it to have NPD, no. But I feel like there's probably a correlation with people that have had severe trauma and that have NPD. They need constant distraction and can never be alone with their own thoughts. They are extremely insecure, negative, and self-loathing. During the love bombing stage, they will mirror you back to yourself. So you fall madly in love with them. As the relationship progresses, the mirroring shifts. The narcissist no longer mirrors you, rather he sees himself in you. He projects all the hate and self-loathing he feels for himself onto you. Okay, this is a long thought here. It says, they are extremely insecure, we know that, negative and self-loathing, we know that. During the love bombing stage, they will mirror you back to yourself, so you fall madly in love with them. So basically, they will project, I think what this is trying to say is, you know, at the love bombing stage, like we were talking about, when they're like, they will mirror you, like the other person, back to yourself. So whoever, so they'll kind of mirror, okay, whoever they pick as the victim, they'll mirror that person back to them. Like they'll pretend kind of like they're them, if that makes sense. Like they'll act like them. So they're actually, you know, they'll take on their same beliefs and their same traits, and so there's like they mirror the victim, and then that person will fall in love with you because they're falling in love with all these traits that are not the real it's not the narcissist personality traits, it's their own, you know. So the narcissist knows which traits to mirror back to them to make them fall in love with you, you know. And it's not really them that they're falling in love with, it's the kind of themselves in a way, like they're mirroring back the traits that they know that person will love about themselves, you know, if that makes sense. So I think that's what Chris did with Shanann. He pretended he was kind of like her. He mirrored herself back to her through him. So he kind of basically was pretending to like have the same kind of traits and attitude and just, you know, different the behavior and traits and attitudes as her. He kind of mirrored her, so she falls in love with him, but it's not really him. Okay, he's mirroring her. And then it says, so they fall madly in love with them. So Shanann falls madly in love with Chris. And then as the relationship progresses, the mirroring shifts. The narcissist no longer mirrors you, rather he sees himself in you. So this is what I was telling you earlier, that he projects all the hate and self-loathing he feels for himself onto you. Okay? So if he makes you the awful person, he doesn't have to acknowledge that what he actually loathes is himself. So what he actually hates is himself. He doesn't have to acknowledge that because he makes you the awful person. He projects all of that self-hate onto you. So he projected all of that onto Shanann. So he doesn't have to hate himself because he can hate Shanann. So he makes her, all the negative stuff and all the stuff he hates about himself, he projects it onto Shanann, and then he hates her instead of himself. So that's basically how it works. So, I mean, I think that's what was going on. I do. I think that's what Chris is suffering from. It's just my opinion right now. I mean, I guess I can't say 100%, but I feel like, you know, going through this, you could kind of pick out different things that I feel like that kind of make sense, you know. So it says they are haunted by their actions. They may not feel or understand another's pain, but they know their actions are the cause. While it's true the narcissists feel little or no empathy, I don't think they set out to destroy people. They need the external validation that people provide way too much. So, that's a good way to put it. They may not feel or understand another's pain because they can't empathize and be able to empathize, you know, what their pain must feel like. But they do know that their actions are the cause of the pain, but they can't know how that must feel. So, you know, for as far as, you know, him, what he did, like, he knows that his actions caused this, and his actions caused a lot of pain, but he can't feel that pain that he caused. He has no idea what that feels like. So that's what I was saying in one of my videos, my last few videos. I can't remember if it was the last one or the one before that. But anyway, I was talking about how he will never know what the Ruseks are going through, or what somebody goes through when their family is murdered. Because, yeah, his family was by him, but he's not feeling that pain or what it feels like to lose them, because he don't have that empathy. So when he says, you know, things like, oh, I feel bad, I wish I could have, you know, have my family, he doesn't actually have that pain. Like, he's not feeling what that feels like what the Ruseks are feeling like to have lost them. So he knows that he caused that pain and they must be experiencing pain, but he doesn't know what that feels like. You know, he can say the words, but he can't feel them. So, I guess that's all I have to say about narcissists. Okay, so I guess that's about the end of this video. I feel like maybe, I'm sorry if you guys are probably so sick of hearing about narcissists, but I just kind of want to go through this because I found this article. This is by Carrie Scott, this article where I got a lot of this information from. I found this a while ago. Gosh, this must have been, man, like 7 or 8 months ago. I was reading this article, and I wrote to her and I said, man, I love your research on narcissists. Can I use some of your information in a video? And she's like, yeah, sure, definitely, go for it. So really cool. Her name is Carrie Scott, and she does a lot of papers and like articles on narcissist personality disorder. So I like the way she words things and explains things. So, alright, I guess this is all I got to say about narcissists and Chris for today. Thanks for listening. If you're still here listening, I'm glad you made it this far of my rambling. But thanks, guys, and I will talk to you next time. Bye. Have a good night.